Hello and welcome to Fresh Face Comics, the comic book podcast where a lifelong comic book reader guides his friend through the world of comics for the first time. My name is Joey Morgan, the aforementioned lifelong reader. With me is Jacob Licklider, the aforementioned newbie.
Hello, everybody.
If you hear a difference in our sound quality, I got Jacob to get a new mic. I'm using a new desktop. It should sound really good right now. I'm very happy with where we're at right now in our recording setup. Before we get into today's episode, exciting announcement. Uh, Fresh Face Comics is now on 5 different platforms. Previously, it was only on YouTube, Anchor, and Spotify. Now you can also listen to it on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. So those are the major platforms. If there's something missing that you typically listen to podcasts on, let us know, and we should be able to add it there. But we have it on those 5 platforms, most places where you listen to podcasts. So if whatever you listen to them on, just let us know. Give us some feedback. We'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you all so much for listening. Looking at the analytics from our first couple episodes, you guys seem to really be enjoying the podcast. So looking forward to where we're going from this point. Today, of course, we are discussing Batman: The Court of Owls. I'm really excited to get into this one. I said this to you before you read it. I was like, this of the first block of stories that we're doing, the first 5 Batman stories, this is probably my favorite. It's also a story that I didn't even bother to reread because everything about this story is just ingrained in my memory. I fucking adore this thing so much. I'm so excited to see what you think of it. Outside of the random thoughts you threw my way as you were
Yes.
reading it. So let's jump right into it. Non-spoiler section first. We will let you guys know when we do get into spoiler territory for this story. Also, by the way, in case you missed it at the end of the last episode, we're covering both the first 2 volumes of the New 52 Batman by Scott Snyder, this being Volume 1, The Court of Owls, and Volume 2, The City of Owls, covering issues 1 through 12 and the first annual. So here we go, non-spoiler section. Having read The Court of Owls for the first time, what is it about?
Uh, so this is what's been interesting is that with each of these episodes, we've done sort of a different style Batman story. This one is uncovering just a conspiracy of a secret organization that has been underneath Gotham City. It's implied since I'm guessing its founding, so
Mm,
a couple hundred years at
mhm.
this point. And essentially basically it's unraveling a conspiracy and not quite taking down the Court of Owls, more just trying to understand what they are, what their deal is, and what they're trying to achieve. Because I found it interesting that at the end of these 2 volumes, it's not like this is not a fully wrapped up story. This is definitely an on meant to be an ongoing thread through what's going to be the rest of Snyder's run.
Mm.
Um,
Because it covers the story covers the larger theme of Gotham City and its relation to Bruce Wayne and Batman. There's a lot of talk between Dick and Bruce in this, talking about whose city Gotham really is. The easy answer, of course, is Batman, but there was someone there before Bruce. They're playing with that idea that it isn't really his city. He doesn't know everything about it like he thought he did. And so a lot of Snyder's run going forward, as we continue to cover more arcs later on, we'll see that Snyder is very focused on what Gotham City is to Bruce, and he makes Gotham feel very alive, I think, and that's very prevalent throughout these 2 volumes.
yeah, it's a very character focused story. Mainly, the first. I'd actually say it's probably kind of a story of like 2 halves. Like you have the first 10 volumes. No, the first ten issues, which is really
First 10 volumes.
there's 10 volumes. I
The Snyder run is 10 volumes long, Jacob.
uh, the first 10 issues, which really focus on Batman and Bruce Wayne, and then a decent amount on Dick Grayson, um, which is when he shows up. He's not there through it all, and then you have like issues 11 and 12, which are focusing on other characters. Issue 11 focuses a lot on Alfred, um, in a very interesting way, which I really liked. I really like that we got a lot of we're especially now we're expanding from covering stuff where Batman is the focus. Now we're having like the people around him is more of a focus. Is this one being Alfred, and then issue 12 being focused on a new, I believe a new character who was this is
Yeah,
her
new character
introduction,
created for the Scott Snyder one. Yep.
called Harper Row. Who going in, all I knew is that you liked this character a lot.
I do really like this character. I think I had mentioned her before, and I really, really am a Harper Row fan. But you do see her early on. I think in issue 7, the last issue of the first volume, and she just kind of comes out of nowhere. She saves Batman from this one situation. Not going into spoilers, of course. She saves Batman from this one situation. You see her for a brief scene, and then you get her backstory in a later issue. And I think it's actually a really smart way to do it. It gets you interested in how the hell Bruce even knows this character, and it gets you really interested to see where it's going. And I'm assuming you liked her character, of course.
Yeah, she was a lot of fun. And then you have the annual, which
the annual is a thing.
It's fine. It's fine.
I remember the first time I read it, I had like a violent reaction to that thing. To be fair, it is not really written by Scott Snyder. It's written by James Tynion IV, who is a good writer, and I really do like him. But it was the first thing I'd ever read by him, and man, it pissed me off. We'll get more into it, of course.
Yeah, I don't particularly like what it does with its character. When is the annual supposed to take place in this run?
If you were, so did your volume have the annual in the correct spot, or did it have it at the end?
It had it at the end.
Oh shit! Okay, gotcha. So the annual was supposed to take place between, I believe, issues 9 and 10, because 9 ends with the one guy getting killed, and then 10 opens with Bruce finding the hideout, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it should be between those two.
Yes. Okay, that kind of makes sense. It wasn't actually the clearest on sort of where this was supposed to be taking place.
Yeah. Because really, like between 9 and 10, that's the rest. That's like where all the tie-in issues take place, and the annual is technically a tie-in issue. It should be like, it is. It doesn't really focus on Bruce in the same way that the rest of the story does, but it includes it because it is part of the main Batman title, and it is annual #1. So let's get a bit more back on topic, though, of course, with the first volume and what the story is actually about. I think I had first described this story to you as Gotham Illuminati, which it pretty much is, and like just like applying that very basic idea of secret society to Gotham is something that you'd really be surprised hadn't really been done before in a mainstream Batman comic. And the Court is a brilliant idea. I remember you had said when you were first like sort of bouncing off some during reading thoughts, you had said that it's not entirely clear if we're supposed to believe that the Court is real. I mean, it's easy to assume that the Court is real, of course, and we know that nowadays because the Court has become very popular.
It's been a thing. It's been a thing.
And but still, like, if you're reading that for the first time, like, it could very well turn out to be just another wild goose chase. We get this great sort of backstory showing Bruce's own connection to the Court and his belief in the Court previously, which we'll get more into in spoilers. But I think that's a really interesting exploration of Bruce's connection to this story and how deeply rooted the Court of Owls is in Gotham's history.
It's very much a thing that could easily retroactively be applied. Now, while we're talking about this, I think it's probably important that we talk about the New 52 as a concept.
Yeah, so this being your first New 52 outing, what did you make of it as an idea? Because I will say the Batman title is a little different from a lot of early New 52 launch titles. It's not quite a proper reboot. It's just, you know, it's more just a regular Batman run. And I'll just let you take it from here. What did you make of the New 52?
Well, one of the things that just going in, I kind of, for any of these comics, it's kind of, continuity is going to be difficult to follow. Like, it changes so much.
At the end of the day, it's just not something you should stress too much over. It's, you know, a story is a story at the end of the day.
But what I like about this specifically is that this is definitely geared towards a new reader.
Yeah, despite the fact that, like, you could recommend any of the stories we've done before to a new reader, but you could throw Court of Owls at someone, and it has the entire Bat family in it. There's a very clear history between Batman. You see most of his rogues in the very first issue. They all make most of them make little cameos, and
it
you
does
get
the story doesn't really start proper until issue 2.
yeah, you get that really great cliffhanger to issue 1, and only then do things start to actually come together.
And I think that's important to have one issue of just like let's establish our status quo. Let's put some names to faces that people who have an ancillary knowledge of superheroes would perhaps know. If through cultural osmosis you're going to know the name Dick Grayson.
Yeah. But even then, if you didn't, like they added this little thing. Actually, that was another thing you had brought to me, is you like how tech-based Snyder's Batman is. So it has this little like facial recognition thing, and it has like these little like bubbles above each character when they're introduced, is like just a very small bio on who each of them are. And it's just a cool little workaround, just to be like, okay, here's a brief rundown of who this character is before we actually get into a conversation with them.
It's also just a good way to bring sort of Batman into the 21st century.
Yeah, I agree.
Like this was what, 2011?
Yeah, yep.
So like right at the point where the internet was taking off to the internet that we know today, at the point where we start having smartphones, and a lot like the modern iPhone 2000 was like around 2011. I think that would be like the iPhone 4 or 5 was around that time.
Mm-hmm.
Like we this definitely brings the modern world to a story like this, and like because like if Bruce Wayne were real and Batman was a real person, this sort of gadgetry is what he would use.
Yeah, definitely, and
I really like that.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense too. On like issue 1 being an establishing issue, though, as to what the Snyder Run is going to be like, a lot of his issues, even just like in these 2 collections alone, a lot of his issues open on the kind of monologue that the Gotham Is thing in the first issue. I love the Gotham Is monologue at the beginning.
It's a really good. It does a lot of things to establish, like, okay, here's the mindset of what where Batman's at right now in his life.
Mm-hmm.
It brings us in to basically our what the cover depicts of that first issue, as well as the first volume,
mm-hmm.
which is, I'm gonna say it, a touch generic.
The cover
is touch generic. It's a nice actiony artwork. I like Capullo's style, and I do like who. I'm just wanting to check who the colorist was, because I really like the way the colors.
Is that Jonathan Glapion? I think.
Glapion's the inker.
Oh, okay. So, FCO. Okay, gotcha. FCO. Very, very good colorist. It is very gray, and it's very dulled, but it feels so vibrant at the same time. I think
it's one of those things where it makes, when you get splashes of vibrant colors, especially throughout, they pop, and that's nice.
Especially given the first arc that Snyder chose to do. It's the Court of Owls. They're people entirely dressed in black and white, and like you said, like it makes those little like moments of color really, really pop. There are a couple scenes later on in the first volume where Batman is running through these like entirely white mazes, and then we see these really stark red coffins, and they're just gorgeous. They look phenomenal. Just those little splashes of color really make this world shine and really tell you exactly what Snyder's Batman is. And it's so distinctive. Capullo's artwork is absolutely brilliant. Speaking on Capullo's artwork, I was curious what you thought of the way he draws Bruce Wayne.
I think it's a very. I don't know if I like the chin, but it's a very.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's that sort of that blocky chin that makes me think of. I know we're not on our Doctor Who channel, but it makes me think of the way Patrick Troughton's animated in Fury from the Deep.
See, I think it kind of works though for Bruce
It
Wayne.
works.
And,
It
and
works. But
I,
it's that thing's like, oh, that is a chin.
yeah, yeah. I was a lot of people complain that Capullo's Bruce Wayne is very young, but also consider, this is a Bruce Wayne drawn specifically for the New 52 reboot, and it's a Batman who's only supposed to have been Batman for about 6-ish years, which, continuity issues aside, it makes sense to make him younger. And I just like my Bruce Wayne to be drawn young personally. I think it just looks cooler.
There's an air of idealism to him as just the way that he's drawn.
Yeah,
Which
and it makes those moments later on when he's really beaten down, when his bat suit is just fucking demolished, and he has like a stubble growing around his mask, and you just see him really torn up. It makes that all the more interesting to look at, because we're used to the perfectly draws Bruce Wayne's face, and seeing that get destroyed and broken down is so interesting.
it's very good. There's also I love the way like a lot of the emotion is played in a lot of the artwork. Like
Yeah,
you can tell.
like you can tell when Bruce is being like really stoic. Like there'll be scenes where like there's a scene late on in Volume 1 where Nightwing is yelling at him, and Bruce is just too worn out to give a shit, and he's just like completely stone faced. And
there are also several points where Bruce Wayne needs to take a nap. Like
yeah,
like, Bruce, take a nap.
And they make that very clear that, man, this guy needs a nap. It's fun. Also, we do get a reframing of a scene from a comic we covered previously on the podcast. We'll talk more about that in spoilers, but I'm assuming you know what scene I'm talking about.
I know exactly what scene you're talking about.
Yeah. Thoughts on that?
I think it's really interesting.
Mm.
I'd like to talk about it more in spoilers because it recontextualizes some things.
It does.
Uh,
It does. Yeah. Better to talk about in spoilers. But then also, moving on, like directly following that scene is this really great image of with the owl in the moonlight. That whole thing.
yes.
Love that image. Just a lot of great imagery throughout this. They even play around with the structure of the panels. They start flipping pages at one point. I always love that.
Interestingly, before so sometimes what I like to do is I like to read the 1-star reviews on Amazon.
Oh god.
I find those interesting because a lot of times it's like you probably didn't get this.
Yeah, either they didn't get it, or they got it and thought it was just, they didn't actually take the time to appreciate the product they got, which I think I know exactly where you're going with
even
this.
more. They'll complain about like, oh, my copy has a misprint.
Mm-hmm. And they'll think that something where like the pages literally flip and you have to turn your book, they think that something like that is not deliberate, and it totally is, and it looks gorgeous.
It is deliberate. Now, I didn't know that was going to happen. I thought, oh, some copies had a misprint.
I was worried you were gonna get that spoiled for you, because I know you like to like flip through some of the artwork when you first get these books in. I was worried that you're gonna flip to one of those like sideways or upside down pages, and you're gonna be like, what the fuck is wrong with this thing? But I'm glad like you didn't happen to come across one of those.
I think I came across one of like the ones that was a full page sideways, but I just thought, oh, that must be like just a stylistic choice.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because it wasn't like a weird compressed image. It was just like, oh, this is clearly meant to be a longer spread like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. So, anything else before we move into spoilers?
I'd say this is also I'd say that, if you haven't read this, definitely seek it out. Both these volumes are fairly cheap. They're still in print. I'd also say if you want like a good introduction to sort of like the Batman family, like especially Dick Grayson and interestingly Damian Wayne.
Yeah, he gets some really really good moments in this.
There's some really interesting moments that I'm sure we'll talk about where you really get like, this is who Damian is. even though
Yeah,
he's very minor. And Tim Drake is
yeah,
there, but he's more just a couple of
yeah.
cameos.
Like if you're looking for any Robin action in this, like Dick Grayson is one of the stars of this story, and I really like his role in this.
Yes.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would say definitely seek this out.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. It's one of my all-time favorite Batman stories for a reason.
and
If
I
you
will
if you want to hear those reasons, stick around for spoilers.
yeah,
Um,
I will also agree with Joey that there is a collected edition we mentioned in the last episode that collects issues 1 to 11. Issue 12 is kind of necessary. You can kind of skip the annual. That's
you can skip the annual if you want. I'm not going to blame you for skipping the annual, but I really think issue 12 you fucking need.
issue 12 is a great it's a great piece.
It's such an important part of the story. I think that like you wouldn't think it would be, but I think it's such an important part of the story.
Yes, yes,
All right,
it
so
does stuff, but
buy these books. The links to them will be in the description, as well as the link to our next reading, which you may want to check out. We'll be announcing what that is at the end of the episode. Even Jacob doesn't know what it
I
is,
don't know what it
so
is. I had a guess, but Joey told me my guess was wrong.
I did tell you your guess was wrong. All right. So let's get going into spoiler territory. This is a very clear spoiler warning. Let's take the story from the top. So I already mentioned the
So
Gotham is
let's do a deep dive into this because ooh, it's a good. This is a like Killing Joke style monologue. Like there's a lot here. Uh,
Mhm.
uh,
You see it a
I,
couple times throughout the volume. Like there are a lot of Snyder Batman issues that open with this kind of monologue. But this has got to be one of my favorites. The Gotham is it's this monologue about Bruce Wayne talking about how there's this column in the Gotham Gazette called Gotham Is, where they ask citizens of Gotham to finish the sentence Gotham is in just a couple extra words to see what they make of the city, and just to it's just sort of like a little fluff piece. So they come up with examples like Gotham is villainous, Gotham is a losing game, Gotham is hopeless, which it's Gotham,
and
fair
this
enough.
is all imposed over um, the first image. I'm guessing that's the first image is Crime Alley.
Yeah,
So where Thomas and Martha Wayne were gunned down. Um, the second image is that's the Gotham, the Wayne Tower, I think.
that would be Wayne Tower, yeah. And
That
then the
is,
third, and then we move over to the probably the most recognizable of the three images, Arkham Asylum. And then we flip and we go inside Arkham Asylum, and we get some interesting interpretations of some of these Batman villains.
yeah. I recognize pretty much all of these villains.
Hmm.
Um,
You and me had an
most,
interesting conversation about one of them
yeah.
as
Well,
we flip
like
through
you need
this.
this. I'm guessing this person in a pig mask is that Professor Pig.
Professor Pig, yep.
I don't know who the pink-haired person is supposed to be.
Oh, wait, hang on a second. The one in the back there.
Yeah,
Oh fuck. Oh, I can't think of the name right now. Oh, damn it. I'm
like
losing it. Shit. I know who it is though. I can't remember the name right now. But yeah, so like you get like this variety of Batman villains. This Gotham is sort of inner monologue. We think it's inner monologue at first. Sort of plays over this scene where he's fighting all the this outbreak in Arkham Asylum. We get. I don't want to talk too much about the conversation we had, but it was really interesting because you sent me a picture of one of the characters, and you said, "Who the fuck is this?" And I was like, that's a character I'd rather not spoil, but like you could take a couple guesses and I'll tell you eventually. And you you didn't like my answer to the question.
yeah, no, I didn't. But I also like one of the few villains that I did recognize that I don't like sort of this design is who I'm assuming is the Riddler.
Yeah, yeah. That design gets retconned in a later Snyder arc. They don't ever use that design again. So
Okay, because it's
no need to worry about that.
it's ooh.
Yeah, it's yeah. Anyway,
Um, but you
really cool.
have
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
you basically you have Batman fighting, um, and as soon as we get to this line about Gotham being something particularly depraved or twisted, you have the Joker show up.
Which
Um,
like okay, obviously, given some early New 52 arcs that you already know about, this isn't actually the Joker.
No.
But my God, if this had stayed the design, I would not be complaining. I really love this design.
It's a good design, and it's a great fake out because
Yeah,
it's
it
like,
is.
oh,
You get this great scene after they deal with the outbreak, where Batman's on the rooftop with Jim Gordon, and he says he's like the CC footage. It almost looks like you're fighting alongside the Joker. Tell me that'd be ridiculous, and Batman says, "Well, that'd be ridiculous, Jim." And I love that bit because because they really do play with that idea of just Batman and Joker fighting alongside each other. This is when it starts to become a bit more apparent, though, in the inner monologue that it's not actually an inner monologue where he says, I like to think a vote for Batman as a broader affirmation. I vote for all of Gotham's heroes. I vote for the GCPD, honest, tireless men like Commissioner Jim Gordon. And I really like that. I like that's the very first thing that Snyder has to say about Jim Gordon as a character. And you don't see too much of him in this story, but whenever Snyder does touch on Gordon, he treats him with a lot of respect. And I think you'll like the way he treats that character.
and it's this. It gives you all you need to know about like why Bruce was at Arkham. He like what it was uh this guard uh who no one it's never explained why Batman
Yeah,
was coming for him, which I don't think you need.
yeah, you don't really. It's just like something wrong here. Arkham outbreak. It's. I explained this to you before we even like open up started recording today, where you were like, "What is with this cover?" And I was like, "It's not so much a cover for the Court of Owls. It's a cover for the fact that this is Batman #1 for the very second time in history, and that's it. That's all it is."
And it's definitely a it's a fine cover. But yeah, you have the moment of that'd be ridiculous, Jim, and Gordon responds, "That's what I figured, just a simple trick of the light."
Mm-hmm.
Um,
At which point we cut to the Batcave. I
this
love
is this is where I fell in love with Capullo's art. Just this
as you should,
amazing
as
spread
you should.
and and some just so many lovely little things. Like you have the dinosaur that's always there. You have the penny.
See the penny in the back there, the giant Joker card behind the dinosaur.
It's so many little moments. All of the vehicles.
Yep,
Um,
I love it. I absolutely
uh,
love it. And then we see the Joker in the Batcave, the same Joker from before. And this is where we really start incorporating the tech side of 21st century Batman into Snyder's run. And we see, of course, find out that the Joker was really Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson had to stay in Arkham for a couple of days to get them to really believe that he was the Joker.
and he
And
wasn't entirely happy about it. And there's this great line. You do actually practice brooding.
yeah, I love it.
Because
I
this is
love
the
it.
first point where Bruce Wayne needs a nap.
Mhm. Oh yeah, yeah. There will be many of these. So we go out. So we find out that we're going into this party, this sort of speech that Bruce Wayne is holding for seems to be just the aristocrats of Gotham for the most part.
And you get a nice. It's where you get the nice, little placards about who everyone is from the facial
Yeah.
recognition.
Tim Drake and Damian Wayne are there. I love the little back and forth between them where Damian says he's using like facial rec to remember who you are, Tim. I love that bit. I think that like Snyder like on this one page nails the rapport of the Bat family, and there's not even that much dialogue.
Yeah, you get this. Yeah, you get this idea. You just get this idea of like, okay, here are our characters. Here are their dynamics.
Mhm.
Damian Wayne's a little shit.
Absolutely. We love him. We love him. So
Yes, like this is. I should say this is my first real like official big thing with most of these characters. Really, I mean, outside of Dick Grayson, because obviously I've been watching the animated series,
mhm.
um, and haven't gotten to the point where Tim Drake shows up in that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, actually, totally off topic. What episode did you just do? What was the last one you did?
Um, Paging the Crime Doctor.
Oh, that one's good. That one's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good. I like that one.
But yeah, you basically have the point where the sort of internal monologue turns out to be the speech that he's giving.
Mhm. Just a very nice speech. He unveils his sort of plan for Gotham. He reveals like this again, the tech side of Batman. Uses this sort of like hologram to show like what his plans for restructuring the Gotham skyline is, and this is where like I really fall in love with Snyder's Bruce Wayne as a character, because he's not just like other writers have really gotten Bruce Wayne right in my opinion, but this one is like my Bruce Wayne, because this is a character that not only is invested in making Gotham better by being Batman, he wants to make Gotham better by using his resources as Bruce Wayne.
And I think that's something that has always been a part of the character to some extent, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
but not a lot
like
of writers like really capitalize on, I
yeah,
think.
and to have this start with like for the majority of this issue, he's not in the bat suit.
Mhm.
Like he's at this party or he's in the bat cave.
Mhm.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
Bruce as Bruce, which I think is important. And while he's giving the speech, we have these nice images of people at the party.
Mhm.
Um,
You
like
see Alfred for the first time. You see Vicky Vale, who I think you only knew from the first Burton Batman film, right?
yes,
Uh,
she's also in Holy Musical Batman,
that's true. That's true. I forgot about that.
where they do
uh,
all of the film love interests.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. We also meet Lincoln March for the first time, who will become a very important character in this
character.
arc. What did you make of Lincoln when you first saw him?
My immediate reaction was like, my immediate was okay. He's gonna die. He's gonna die or
He's
be a
gonna die.
villain.
All
Like
right
you
then.
are you are too good. Like he
I
seems so charming,
I remember
so
my one
charming.
friend read has started reading the Court of Owls not too long ago, and he finished it recently, and he said to me he's like, Lincoln March is like the one new character to the Batman mythos here. He's gonna be behind something here. And I was like, okay, look, just go along with it. It's not about the twist, it's about what like how the twist is handled, I think.
Yes, yeah. Like, well, I was leaning towards he's dead. He is dead. He is our.
Which you were right about.
Yes, I was right about. I was right about.
On multiple occasions.
Yeah, and you have the great minute of like you have the great thing of he sets up a meeting with Lincoln March. Like yes, yeah, because Lincoln's like I want your vote, Bruce. Um,
Yeah, and it's not about like like Bruce advertising it to other people to get more votes. It's just specifically because he values Bruce as a person.
yeah, as a person, and it goes a long way to help establish the Bruce as an important member of the community.
Hmm.
Um, and probably more than just as like the aristocrat that he is, as a genuine caring member of the community,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
important for what happens in issue 12.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, and we'll get there. We'll get there.
yeah,
Uh, I think also just
but
a great little visual cue here is that Lincoln is drawn staggeringly like Bruce.
yes, yes,
I don't think it's something you're gonna like necessarily clock on first reading,
I
because
didn't. I certainly
yeah,
didn't.
because I think especially like when you surround Bruce with the other black-haired, blue-eyed people of the Bat family, you're not necessarily gonna clock that there's another black-haired, blue-eyed person here. But no, Lincoln is drawn specifically like Bruce.
Yeah, and again, it's kind of telling that like this isn't where you get like a Barbara Gordon cameo, which happens later,
Mhm.
or
Yeah, yeah. So
um,
all right, so we are we are going in way too much detail. I think we do need to
yes,
speed it up.
we yeah, so we
So
we
Bruce.
have so now we have our this the inciting incident, uh, where you have a man who has been stabbed a lot of times. Um, he is laid out like he's been. It's basically a crucifixion.
Mhm.
Um, and no,
Stabbed in like specific places so that he would still be alive and die slowly.
yes, and that's not even the like. It's the absolutely weird stuff of there is uh, on the knives there are owls,
Hmm.
um, and
Also, this scene has the one proper appearance of Harvey Bullock in this comic, and I think it's a shame that he's not in more of it because I love the way Snyder writes him.
Yeah, no. What is it with Bullock coming in for really fun cameos
Yeah, I
in
really
these?
I understood like you only really knew Bullock from the animated series. I think when you first started watching the animated series, you asked like you're like, was he created for the animated series? I'm like, no, no, no. And Bullock is amazing. Bullock has always been around. Everybody loves Bullock. He's a
Bullock
shit,
is a,
but he's a shit, but everyone loves Bullock.
yeah, but you have a great display of the tech, and Bruce Batman notices linseed oil, so he takes Bullock's cigar and lights the wall on fire
And it says Bruce Wayne will die
by
tomorrow.
tomorrow. Now, it, this is where Bullock actually gets to shine using his brain cells, because it's like the dude died a week ago.
Yeah,
Tomorrow has passed.
yeah, meaning
Uh,
they knew when they would find the body.
yeah. So that's already a very it's a very it's you're already like, okay, so
Mhm.
whatever's going on, someone's planning it.
Yeah, and it sets up the promise of a really intelligent enemy for Batman, someone that could actually like really match his level of investigative skill and probably combat, considering what he's done to this dead body. So I think it's a great setup for a character that we don't even know yet, or characters that we don't even know yet. Um, Meanwhile, during his investigations, Batman sent a DNA sample to Alfred as to who may have stabbed this person a million times. And the end of the issue, I think, is one of my favorite. End of the first issue is one of my favorite endings to a Batman issue. We continue the sort of Gotham is idea. And they're talking about Gotham, it says that's when it stabs you right in the back, because above everything, Gotham is a mystery, and the DNA results come in, DNA match, Dick Grayson, and Alfred just looks so sad.
Alfred looks like, okay, did I fail as a parent? That
Yeah.
is the
Oh
that is
man.
the and
It's
this twist flew me. I'm like, what's going on?
yeah.
Like,
Because for one thing, like I think if nothing else, the first issue really sets up that Snyder isn't quite the kind of writer to pull the rug out from under you. Like he like not in the way of just saying like, oh, it's a wrong DNA match. No, no, no. Like that is Dick Grayson's DNA there.
yeah, I'm like it didn't even cross my mind that it could be a miscalculation. It's like, no, this is for some reason Dick Grayson's DNA is on this dead body.
Hmm.
Um, and that twist, Snyder makes the decision to not immediately follow up on it.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, like we'll catch up with Dick still in the second issue, but you won't
but
do it
not
for a while yet.
immediately. It takes some time. We also it's telling to know we haven't actually mentioned the Court of Owls yet.
Yeah, they
They
we get a brief mention in issue one because Bullock mentions it, right?
Yeah, Bullock
Bullock,
Bullock mentions it, but he doesn't say it outright.
yeah,
Uh,
because it's the owls and the knives, and he mentions the old wives' tale about the court, and like he says we see the letter C, and Batman cuts them off, immediately showing that Batman already came to the same conclusion and just doesn't want to acknowledge it for some reason.
and isn't going to acknowledge it because and to a reader who didn't even know the title, like, because I'm sure when this was running, this probably wasn't advertised as issue one, the Court of Owls.
Yeah, yeah, we just like know
uh,
that like whatever Bullock was about to say, Batman had already come to that conclusion and had already dismissed it.
um,
Which, first off, Detective Batman. That whole last scene is showing Batman as a detective, and this detective Batman has already dismissed a possibility that is right in front of him.
yes.
Uh, Consider that. Consider why Batman would do such a thing. And having read the whole thing, I love the reason that we eventually get for why he dismisses the court.
Yeah, it is such a good reason, and I'm sure we'll get to it because it immediately puts in the reader like, okay, whatever this old wives' tale thing is, it's not even on the list of suspects.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
which
especially
which helps make us think prime suspect number one, Dick Grayson, like
yeah,
has has Dick Grayson gone evil?
Hmm.
Which I don't think you're entirely supposed to.
Which, yeah, you're not supposed to believe that. But then again, the first thing we saw Dick do in the issue is impersonate the Joker. So
Yeah, so it's like,
we're not off to the best start. No.
yeah, and it doesn't feel cruel because again, Snyder makes Dick feel like Dick Grayson. Um, Now, if it was like, say, I don't know, Jason Todd, a DNA match, then you'd think that
Yeah,
tracks.
Jason may have done this, but but no, it's Dick Grayson,
But
and
no.
I love the way
Uh,
we follow up on that.
but we
So,
can immediately move on to a very nice explanation. Issue 2 is another one where there's a monologue that runs through it. This one about Wayne Tower, um, which another great way of getting new readers sort of like acclimated to Gotham City as a city,
mhm,
because it describes the bridges, the tunnels, some stunning artwork and skylines, um,
mhm.
and the whole idea that the glass of the viewing tower is unbreakable. Flip to the next page, it's being broken, and Bruce Wayne is being flung from the tower.
It's such a great cold open. I absolutely love it. And we cut to 24 hours earlier, and we're off to something completely different. Batman is chasing down these thugs on his motorcycle, and it's just a great action-packed opening. We get some brilliant artwork here, aside of Batman that we didn't really see in the first issue, that you could tell like Snyder and Capullo are still playing around with as a team.
Yeah, you have you have it's very much a cold open, which we're not supposed to necessarily know, what's going on. This is like here's another case. Here's
Mhm.
another thing that Batman's doing, um, and really things start to become important again when you actually get the autopsy of our crucifixion victim. Um,
Mhm.
Again, seeing this great display of technology where like Jim allows Batman in the room without him having to actually be there.
Yeah, yeah. Again, yeah, great example of the tech side of Batman. I love this autopsy scene as a whole. I love Gordon and Batman bouncing off each other. Again, I love the way Snyder writes it all. It's very smartly written, and you feel like it's actual detective work. This is the reason that I know you loved our previous reading of the Long Halloween, because it's Batman as a detective. You really see that in action.
I love a mystery, and this is a good mystery. And this is the first time, because of this, one, you have this great establishment that Gordon, at least on the surface, has not clocked it that Batman and Bruce Wayne are the same person.
Hmm.
It's like if I take it, you're keeping an eye on him. I have it covered, and then we look. It's very much it's actually, I think it's also very smart in recapping a lot of the first issue. Um,
Hmm.
Especially if this because this was issue number 2
Yeah.
of what's going to be a long running thing. So if someone just didn't happen to pick up issue 1, it's
Hmm.
it's a
You
good.
you'll see that a lot when we do like bigger arcs that like span across multiple series. Is like you'll see a lot of like the information repeated in other issues in case you did happen to miss an issue before that.
Or
Um,
we're unaware that an arc was going on because
yeah.
I I imagine, like, especially like this, I imagine with the new 52, someone's like, okay, I wanted to get into Batman comics. They're restarting Batman from issue 1. I somehow accidentally miss issue 1. I
Hmm.
can probably pick up issue 2, little
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. It's
And you
very smart
can.
written.
And here's where we have our first real look that, okay, this owl motif is not going away.
Yeah.
Um,
It's very much a part of it. Wasn't just like a killer that happened to be using knives with owls on them. No. This is part of the killing,
yeah,
and I love that.
that this
So.
this guy had an owl on his teeth, and this is where we get the first time the nursery rhyme is said.
Mhm.
Um, what is it? Beware the court of owls that watches all the time, ruling Gotham from a shadowed perch behind granite and lime. They've watched at your hearth, they'll watch you in your bed. Speak not a whispered word of them, or they'll send a talon for your head. It's a great nursery rhyme.
Hmm.
A
One
great
of the one of
chilling
those,
nursery.
yeah, one of those like totally like Grimm's fairy tales, nursery rhymes. That's meant to be a children's thing, but also fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
It's gonna send children to bed screaming. I love it.
Yes. Yes.
So
Um,
so we get the autopsy scene. Dick comes in, and him and Batman have a little
well,
talk. They
you
talk
also
about
have the still thing of of Batman dismissing it. They don't exist.
Mhm.
I just know.
Yeah.
So we're already planning like, okay, someone's trying to use this owl imagery for a killing,
Mhm.
and you have Dick Grayson in as Nightwing, um, but in red, which is
Oh
interesting.
yeah, oh yeah, I meant to ask. What did you think of the red suit?
Like like it works. It works here, especially with the rest of the color scheme, and it blends in. But
Mm.
like my brain just thinks Nightwing in blue.
Yeah, yeah, it was a New 52 thing. He had that for the whole New 52. And then when they did Rebirth, he came back with blue. So I think it was, for the most part, it was a Dan DiDio decision. He was one of the executives at DC at the time, and he adores the red suit. He was on the Rebirth panel for when they revealed like all their launch titles for Rebirth, and everyone sort of made fun of him at the panel for being mad that the blue suit was back.
See,
Um,
it's like it works. It works.
I think honestly, it looks amazing because of Greg Capullo. I think it
Yeah,
because it's honestly like looking at if you get a chance, look at the artwork from the main Nightwing title. I think that would look a lot better if it was blue. Here, I think the red totally works, honestly.
yeah. The red works, and it later on it helps blend like the other members of the Bat family, the male members of the Bat family who are also in red. Um, but like you have you, but you have Bruce being outright and being like the one who had your DNA under his fingernails.
Mhm.
Um,
We also know that this guy ran into Dick one day. We find out here. He said, "What did he say? They're real. They're everywhere, and they're sending him for you, all of
all
you."
of you.
Um, but there's got to be a reason, obviously, that he specifically went after Dick. Dick is very clearly involved in this story, much more than any other Bat family member,
It's
aside from
like
Bruce, of course.
why him? Why him? And why grabbing his DNA?
Mhm.
Um, like um, and then you have Bruce making perhaps a poor decision in pushing Dick away.
Mhm.
Um,
But that's something that Bruce does a lot throughout this story,
yes,
and
that is, and I like that because it's very much Snyder and Capullo being like, you're not supposed to entirely agree with Bruce. He is pushing people away, and that's not a good thing.
mhm.
That is
So Bruce very quickly cuts off this interaction, says, "I have to go." He has a meeting to get to, which is his meeting, of course, with Lincoln March. They go to Old Wayne Tower to discuss things. Lincoln sets up his little backstory of where he comes from, and I was curious if at this point you started to put together any sort of connection between him and Bruce.
I really had not. Um,
I know that's a good sign. I'm not expecting you to.
like
It's yeah, it like clearly like they're giving this random politician character a lot of extra backstory for a reason, but the hints are very clearly there, knowing where it eventually goes and what Lincoln believes his connection to Bruce is.
yeah,
But I like the little backstory he gives about like the little heart pin that he made for his mother. He doesn't remember what she looks like, but he remembers certain things about her, and I think it's just a great.
which is very it's very much like, yeah, in times of trauma this can happen. It's called a flashbulb memory. You're going to remember just in great detail one specific aspect, and then the rest is going to be there. And I could see the parallels they're setting up. You know, lost his parents, but it's like, oh yeah, again, he's gonna die. That's I'm like, oh, he's too pure for this world.
Well, even
Uh,
in this scene, the very next thing that happens is this man in all black comes in and stabs Lincoln.
all black, who looks like an owl, um, stabs him,
Which
and
let's talk for a second. The design of the Talon, oh my God, I love it.
it is so simple. It is
Hmm.
so simple yet so effective.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Of course, king of simple designs goes to the actual court themselves, but of course we'll get into them later. But my God, I'm in love with these designs. What's really cool is we'll talk about this more later, but in the tie-in issues, when they revive all the Talons, they have different Talons from different eras going after members of the Bat family, and so you get like all sort of like varieties of Talons. There's like a Western Talon, there's a Victorian Talon. They're from like all different time periods. They're really cool to look into. Just look some of them up later. They're really fascinating.
yeah, and you have this great fight um, of Bruce being careful, like don't give myself away here. Uh,
Hmm.
just get like lucky strikes in,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
have this Talon doesn't speak until the killing blow is basically dealt.
yeah, yeah.
And there's that sort of I love the way that it's lettered.
Mhm. Oh, with the black bubble and all that.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, gorgeous.
the black
Um,
bubble inverted text. It's the font is
it's very scratchy.
it's scratchy. It kind of
Yeah.
evokes like being stabbed
Hmm.
with like a claw. I think Richard Starkings did the lettering on this.
You
If not
may
him,
be.
then his company.
Yeah, he
Um,
was he was one of the people who worked on the
yeah,
lettering. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, like it's and you have just this dynamic motion of Bruce Wayne falling.
I
Um,
love the panel at the bottom of that page where the talent says Bruce Wayne, the Court of Owls has sentenced you to die. I love when he kicks Bruce through the window and you see all that shattered glass there. Oh, it's
yeah,
gorgeous. Them falling from Wayne Tower, that inner monologue about that 13th gargoyle that Bruce catches himself on as the talent falls to the ground. I love that. And just that image of Bruce with all the knives in him as he's standing on that gargoyle.
and this idea
Showing that Bruce Wayne can be just as intimidating as Batman when he wants to.
and you also have the only other line of dialogue of how I love killing Waynes. You're like that. I mean, I'm like, oh, is this gonna
Yeah.
do a Batman backstory retcon? Perhaps.
And then as this Talon, after this Talon like falls to the ground, obviously would kill anyone. It wakes up inside the ambulance, kills the people in the ambulance, and begins to drive away. And that is the end of issue 2. And holy shit, like it, I think I like issue 1 better as just a complete story, but issue 2 just ramps up the whole thing to 11,
Issue
and
up
it's
ramps things up, and I love the horror aspects at play, like the otherworldliness of the eyes lighting up after death of the goggles.
yeah, yeah,
I
which
also
which doesn't technically make any sense, but it's visual.
It's this great visual. I love the cover for issue 3.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
that could
yeah.
have been our volume 1 cover.
I
Like
agree. I agree.
because issue 3 is where we get our first flashback to the past.
Yes.
Um,
We open on Gotham City in 1922, and we meet God, what's his name? Alan
Alan
Wayne.
Wayne.
Alan
Um,
Wayne, who is running through the streets, going insane. Someone is after him, and the police like find him. They reassure him. They turn away for like 1 second, and he falls down a manhole and dies. And that's
or does
all
he
we.
jump? And nobody quite knows.
Mhm.
Um, and then you have Bruce just just intimidating um mobsters uh
Mhm.
just trying to
He's
be
trying to
on
he's trying to find out more about the assassin at Wayne Tower. But another great opening monologue, just catching us up on like what Bruce has learned so far as a detective as he's fighting these guys.
and it's very nice and I love the bits of world building about this whisper gang that they
Mm-hmm.
put you in like that they mold a mask to your face. um for like it's what, for at least a year until the sixth has proven himself.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Yeah, just so many cool ideas there. It's just like it doesn't even like it's not even like necessary for the rest of the story, but it's just this nice bit of world building that makes
it also
Snyder's
sort of
Gotham.
it helps add to the confusion that's going on, like because you're questioning with Bruce, like what is this thing? Um,
Mhm.
uh,
So we go back to the Batcave. Bruce catches us up on his findings. He's still holding on to the owl knives that he was attacked with now, and I like his little talk with Alfred here about Alan Wayne's death.
yeah. Um,
Because Bruce, I think, is subconsciously starting to entertain the thought of the court existing. Um,
yeah, I
e-
mean, we have
e-
this
e-
we have this bit about just owls in general.
mhm. How
And
they're the natural predator of bats. Which, by the way, like as an idea, I love the Court of Owls and just what it is, and visually, it's just fascinating, all of it. But that added caveat of just owls being a bat's natural predator, I love that. I absolutely love that.
it is such a good idea. And the owl imagery, even even here, like even on these pages, you get this view of Alfred and Bruce from the cowl uh, at the top of this page, and it like the way that page is laid out kind of looks like an owl um, in a lot of ways. It's an image that just keeps popping up, and it's just completely there. Um, and you have you have Alfred telling Bruce to take a nap
Hmm.
because this is starting to consume him,
Yeah.
which isn't healthy.
Hmm.
Um, but he doesn't. He
Yeah.
visits Lincoln in the hospital.
I really like this scene. Lincoln, once again reaffirms the belief that it is the Court of Owls. He recites the nursery rhyme again, and presents this really interesting idea that uh, it's not so much the big picture that Bruce should be concerned about. There are these little dangers, these little like small things popping up in the city that Bruce may not be focusing on because he's looking at the bigger picture here.
Yeah, it's there's this great idea of Lincoln March coming home to find. 2 weeks ago, I woke to find an owl in my apartment, just perched there in my closet, a little pile of bones beneath it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's it's again, it's the this shouldn't be real. This shouldn't be real. This shouldn't be affecting me like it is, but it is because
Mm-hmm.
there's something go like by now there is something going on under the surface.
Yeah,
Um,
and I love the last line here that leads us into the next scene. It says, "But Bruce, if they're watching me, who is watching you?" And we don't get an answer to that because Bruce is a lone wolf. He has a family, but Bruce does not accept them as the people to watch over him. He is only looking out for himself here and is diving in back into that fear that he had as a child again. Again, we'll get into that later as to his previous investigations into the court, but here we see him trying to find old court of owls like hideouts and going on this investigation again, getting consumed by this hunt for something that he still really doesn't believe exist.
yeah, he's like, oh, he's basically it's like it's sort of routine, and what he doesn't like find anything until, and it's all done through inner monologue until he's just going to. Um, I don't actually. Does it ever say what building he's in?
Probably in one of the monologues.
It was a
Um,
building. It was a building funded by Alan Wayne. Um,
yeah,
that's the important part. And he
yeah.
finds sort of a, an owl cave,
Yeah,
basically.
I love these next couple scenes in a row where he finds all these hideouts. You see this old family portrait with these. First off, the first time we ever see the actual court in the June 1891 photo of them in just these terrifying blank white masks. Like
And you have
it's
it's this great cult aesthetic. Um,
mhm.
and just this great, we don't, these people's identity does not matter because they are, this identity doesn't matter because these people are bigger than anything Bruce has faced.
Mhm.
They have been waiting a long time.
Yeah, but on their identities at the same time, you sort of know exactly who they are because it's every important figure in Gotham you can imagine. You don't necessarily need to know who they are because their importance is there. You know that they can get anything done at this point. You know what they did to Alan. As readers, we've already put together what they've done to Alan Wayne, how they're going after Bruce now.
And they and you know you go through and you see the final image of, you know, one, you have that terrifying dialogue of, he was right about the owl nests, they're in our homes.
Hmm.
And you have just this the terrifying image of June 2006.
Yeah,
Like, that sent a chill down my spine.
which at the time was only 5 years ago. Presumably, the last time the court had a meeting like this and took a picture like this was, if we're taking the New 52 continuity into account, when Batman was just starting out.
Oh, I didn't make that connection
Yeah,
because obviously
yeah.
I wasn't actively thinking. It's like, so they have been watching him the entire time,
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
then the building explodes.
And you get this gorgeous last panel of a Talon watching there as the building goes up with an owl standing next to him.
And then the gorgeous cover for issue 4.
Oh my
Um,
god, the covers of this damn series. Oh, I love it. I love it
Again,
so
they
much.
could have chosen any of these other covers to represent the first
Jacob,
volume.
how many times must I tell you? It is standard if you're doing a first volume to make it the first issue cover as your trade cover.
Well, that is dumb. That is dumb. But
I
yeah,
agree. I
you
agree.
you have you know, this daring escape, and it's a great sort of action scene because the Talon doesn't really get involved. Of like, he doesn't get up close and personal. Um, because Bruce escapes, and then we cut back to the Batcave
Mhm.
where, you know, and we get like a full page of just Dick Grayson pondering things.
Yeah, Bruce isn't really humoring him throughout this scene. He's not even really saying that much. But Dick is just observing Bruce as he does what he does, and uh, and taking his findings into account. Bruce has gotten the remains of Alan Wayne in the Batcave, which, my God, if you weren't concerned about Bruce's investment in this case to begin with, you should be now.
You should be now.
He's digging up his great grandfather's remains.
I love how Dick reacts to digging up this remains. Well, if you're not going to introduce me to your friend, this is just going to be awkward.
Like, which again, I love Dick Grayson as a character. He's my favorite Robin for a reason. He's so good.
He
Um,
is. Well, he also just has just the great bits where uh you have just like, Dick couldn't be there and Bruce is stuck in his own world,
mhm.
and he's not telling Dick what he knows and
Yeah,
what he expects. And this is where we get perhaps one of the linchpins of this entire arc.
one of
Um,
my favorite things about the
you know,
entire story,
it
which
is
is
beautiful.
Bruce has been dismissing the court the entire time in this volume because he has already investigated the court before and found that they don't exist. Because back when his parents were first murdered, Bruce had connected the dots and thought that the Court of Owls, these nursery rhyme characters, had something to do with it.
And it is, you can see the logic through that grief. Like, my
Yeah.
parents couldn't have just been killed by some random Joe Schmo on the streets
Mhm.
at at night coming home from
Yeah.
the movie theater.
Yeah, which again, you create this great sort of thematic parallel of the Court of Owls as a story being this nursery rhyme for children, and Bruce coming to this conclusion as a child.
And it's the art style shifts here to be this great, like, it's not black and white, but it's a it's sort of monochrome, um, mainly in this red and gray,
Hmm.
and you have this great methodical young Bruce Wayne investigating, and what finally beats him that night, he finds
He finds the
he
schematics to like this old house that he thinks he may have like nailed the court down to,
not even
and
me. It is a he must this must be it.
mhm,
And all he finds is in that striking image of an empty old house with nothing.
yeah. And he says there was dust, nothing, no answers, no villains, just an old empty room that hadn't been used in years. And the door closed by his foot. It closed right behind him, which, by the way, they're not clear on it, which I like. But could a Talon have closed that door on him?
It's possible.
I think that's very
I'd
possible.
I'd imagine, especially if, in the immediate aftermath of the death of two of them, like of a very prominent Gotham City doctor,
Mhm.
um, like Thomas and Martha Wayne were prominent.
Yeah,
Even
and now their son is investigating the court. It's very possible. I think that's
even
definitely
though
the
even though the
implication.
Waynes seem to have a connection to the Court of Owls, there's no even if Thomas and Martha didn't, they would still be being watched.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, as one of the most important families in Gotham. Yeah, they would definitely be watched.
and there's that great image to sort of put this image in your mind of just the circle with that silhouette of an owl.
Hmm.
After I was locked up there for over a week.
And then
Uh,
Alfred found him, and he was comatose. Oh my
yes,
god, like it's insane. I love it. So Bruce Lee's Dick. He goes on into the sewers. He makes his next investigation down there. He thinks he's onto something, and then a Talon attacks him down there. And Bruce wakes up in the labyrinth, the Court of Owls labyrinth, because we get this striking image on the last page of the issue of Bruce standing in this maze, Batman standing in this maze, I should say, this solo like spotlight on him, looking up at this Talon eye shaped screen, and with three Court of Owls members saying, "Welcome to the welcome Batman to the labyrinth," and then we begin like what is probably like my favorite section of this first volume.
what is probably it's probably the best section of the entire arc, honestly.
I
Uh,
agree. I honestly, yeah, I agree.
you have the first amazing page where it's like, okay, time has clearly passed.
Hmm. Batman's been gone for a while. Gordon
Harvey
is
Bullock
just.
giving this great sort of deadpan humor. He'll be dead soon, you know.
Mhm.
And they're like, you're immediately where he's like, wait, what?
Yeah,
Surely it's immediately like, surely not Bullock. It's like
yeah.
Siggy, the bat signal. You've been running him hot all week. Well, you're gonna blow his bulb.
I love it. So they decide to leave the
And
bat signal on.
you
We get
have
this great.
so much character here of like it's been 8 days. The bat isn't coming, leaving the light on for him. It's not just for him, Lieutenant Bullock.
And we see all the Bat family trying to cope without Batman. We see Dick and Damian interrogating someone. Damian going on his own.
Dick is clearly the one being holding himself together the best.
Yeah,
Because
because well, Dick knows Bruce the best at the end of the
yeah,
day. I mean, hell, even Alfred. We see Alfred on these two pages, and he's holding himself okay as well. Damian's clearly worried. Barbara's worried. Do you know Batwing?
no.
Batwing is the one between Alfred and Catwoman. There.
Okay. Um,
Um,
okay.
I'm sure. I'm sure we'll get to some of his stuff later.
Yeah.
He's a member of Bat.
You have
Batman's
Selena
cult as well.
Kyle. Did you? I don't. Was Snyder a Batcat shipper?
He is not. He is
He
not.
is not.
Unfortunately, I love him all the same, but he is not.
I
So,
mean, you can read that as Batcat shipping, though. That one
yeah,
little tiny
yeah.
panel.
Or just also the fact that probably the most popular Batman story in recent years before them was a gigantic like Batcat shipping arc. I won't spoil what
Oh,
it is because we will totally cover it eventually.
yeah, but there is just so much character. If you do not know these people, you can see a lot of who they are in just these individual tiny panels.
Yeah, yeah. And then we cut back to the labyrinth, and we get this gorgeous, big like statue fountain of an owl, standing above the water. And Batman has been here a long time. One of his eye pieces is out.
He looks like a madman.
Yeah, he does. He's growing like a bit like some stubble around his mouth. His suit is all torn up already, and presumably he hasn't even fought anybody down here. He's just down here by himself.
I read this as all psychological and drug-induced torture because immediately it's like I shouldn't like every part was crying out, screaming, just a little, a sip, not much, not too much. Probably drugged. It's definitely drugged.
Yeah. Oh my god, I love it. And like it's gorgeous. And there's barely any dialogue. We find like this room of presumably victims of the Talons, people that they've killed. And
he can't quite tell if he's seeing pictures of himself at all. Like that's because that's kind of being implied, like that there are pictures of him already on this wall. Because they're expecting that this is going to kill Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. It's also not directly stated that the court knows that Bruce is Batman. Obviously they do, but it's never directly stated. You just get that feeling. And not only is his identity not important to them, his entire existence is not important to them, and they're just trying to scrub him out.
He is their prey. Mm-hmm. It's that great idea of bats being the natural prey of owls. And you have this great, like, he thinks he finds some court members, he attacks them, they're not there. Mm-hmm. And he falls on his face, he gets up, he starts wandering the maze. The last panel of the maze just starts to break apart and stop making sense.
Yep.
And then we have to turn the comic 90 degrees.
Yeah. Oh, hang on that same page where the maze starts to break, look at the top right panel there, how Capullo draws his cape. How that's not a natural cape anymore. That is way too long. That is Capullo trying to make the reader go as insane as Batman is. I love that.
We are entering a surrealist landscape.
Little things aren't starting to make sense. Bruce is walking over as we turn pages. Then literally, as we turn pages, Bruce is starting to walk over this scale model of Gotham, and he finds these names on a wall, important names in Gotham, or presumably, honestly, every name in Gotham. I think that's very possible.
You see some big ones. You see the ones that stood out to me. Obviously, the biggest one you're supposed to be drawn to is of course Gordon. But you also see Cobblepot. You see Kane. You don't see Wayne, interestingly.
Yeah. I mean, presumably they're there somewhere.
Yeah, but the whole idea is that the Gordon is the one that shakes him because this is Bruce realizing everyone is a target. Everyone's a target. Everyone's either a target or is in on it somewhere, somehow.
We then go into this next room with these gorgeous red coffins lining the entire room, and these aren't now victims. That was the last room. These are Talons.
This is where you get just the chilling reveal that they take the children and turn them into monsters.
Yep.
I think this is what breaks Bruce, because another great Kate moment here. Look at that brown owl statue that you see down there, to the left of it. The way his cape engulfs that panel. It looks like the sea, like a wave.
It does, and you have that ship model at the top there. Oh, it's gorgeous. It is gorgeous. Also, Bruce's inner monologue starts to crack as well. You see that continued sentence, not listening, not listening, not listening. It even gets big and loud, and a lot of exclamation points. He yells, "Not listening," in his mind. One can only imagine what this would even sound like, him speaking this out loud. Hell, he probably did. And he's not intimidating anymore. He's not Batman anymore. He is totally broken. He is further solidified by the next thing the court does to him. Hell, the court probably doesn't even do this to him. He probably just imagines his dead fucking parents.
Yeah. Well, he immediately finds himself. You're already playing with the whole. None of this geography of this labyrinth makes any sense.
Yeah.
I have a theory that they are like moving the walls genuinely to fuck with him,
Yeah.
like because he finds himself back in the room with portraits, and he finds a picture of himself.
I also
Um,
love, and also there's the camera there still that he broke last time he was in this room.
and yeah, but then he finds his parents,
And
old and decrepit.
and then the entire book goes upside down as they decay and turn into as owls rip out of them and start to pull and tear at his costume.
This is where we get this is like it and at this point you're holding the book upside down and it's just like
It's
uh,
it's it's so
it's
confusing and I love it. Like that's the point. Like you're going as insane as Bruce, and I love it. Oh, I love it so much. Um, so we move on then to after he has somehow broken through that, um, and again, it's all mind games. It's all him. He's doing this to himself, really.
and he finds himself basically back at where he started, and I think that is really interesting. It's interesting that they put him back at where he starts because
And I
it
think this
makes
is
this
also,
feel
and then
like something that's repeating.
you look at the reflections then on the pictures there before the Talon comes after him, and they're all him.
Yeah,
And he again just that constant like I'm not listening, I'm not listening, I'm not listening, as this Talon comes up behind him and stabs him. And then the final page of the issue, I want to know what you think of this scene because oh man, I love this.
it is the time where you Damian Wayne needs a hug.
Damian needs a hug.
It's like because you have the bat signal blowing up, the surreal image of Bruce becoming an owl, as is being implied on the previous page. Interestingly, it's very good that it's a very smart decision to go right back to normal for that last page.
Yeah, yeah, as you
That
should.
like
That's
we are
normalcy.
out, we are here. Um,
And then just that final panel of Gordon with his arm around Damien.
yeah, you have
I love it. I adore
there
it.
aren't
Oh,
tears
I
in
adore it.
Damien's eyes, but you
Yeah.
can see so much emotion in this child's face
Yep.
that like
That
he has
even you like not even knowing much about Damien as a character, like I'm sure you got exactly what Damien's relationship is like with his father. He still loves him. He's a dick.
yeah.
Damian Wayne is an absolute dick, but he loves his father.
Damien's not a well-adjusted human being, but he has the potential to be. And there are tears in this child's eyes, and it's just like and he's demanding get a new one now.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
this is the first time where I think this is symbolically he has to deal with the fact dad might not be coming out of this.
Oh man. Oh god, it's so so good. So before we talk about issue 6, the cover. Oh my god.
I have seen this image before.
Oh, you
I
have. Okay.
this is an image I have seen.
It is terrifying. It is actually terrifying. It is worth mentioning. Snyder and Capullo's entire repertoire before they got probably DC's biggest headliner in the New 52 was all horror comics.
And that influence is perfect for a story like this.
Yeah.
And for Batman. Batman is a hero who you can play with horror and good like gothic horror.
Yep.
But yeah, you
So
have
the issue opens, we pick up where we left off. The Talon starts to beat the living piss out of Bruce because honestly,
and we are in the Talon's perspective because we are back in sanity because Bruce has not regained himself yet. He hasn't. And
also when we turn on the lights in this labyrinth, Bruce's costume has sort of lost color, hasn't it?
Yeah. It looks like he's just fading into the background and like his eyes are bulging. You have this terrifying line of my court, he is prepared. I present to you the Batman. How do you wish him to die?
And we get these beautiful images. First off, like these 6 panels in a row on the next page, where we see how Batman views how the court looks in that first one. Terrifying. You see what they actually look like. You see the creepy, skinny doll-looking one, and then the child, who simply says, "Hurt him more." And the Talon says, "My pleasure, my lady," and
Which is
continues to beat
already
Raven.
it's a terrifying. So much is communicated on this page of just like it doesn't only go deep. There are children in on this.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There are children brainwashed to be the rulers of Gotham City from behind.
Mm-hmm.
And you have just that terrifying more,
Mm-hmm.
and like they punch him through a wall, and
And then that same sort of creepy, skinny kid one goes right up to Bruce and touches his face. And I don't know why, but I could like almost imagine how that feels.
it is terrifying because it's this it obviously we're from Bruce's perspective, so we're seeing the distorted, but it's a little girl, a curious little girl,
Mm-hmm.
um, and the one thing that brings Bruce back to reality is seeing the death photo of his great grandfather.
Yeah.
Uh, and
And then
like
Bruce at that moment gives in to the madness and becomes a monster. And holy shit,
it's
I love that page.
and you still see the fangs, and it's really really good. You have again the Talon is still terrifying.
Mhm. And I think also this is a page that doesn't technically make a lot of sense. But I think the past issue and a half has conditioned the reader so much to just say, yeah, that is something that can happen in this labyrinth. Everyone is insane, and Batman can use that same fear that he has felt to his advantage.
To his advantage, and it's obviously it's not meant to be a literal representation because they literally aren't all crawling all over him.
Yeah,
Uh,
but then the Talon continues to see him as this fanged monster.
um, and the Talon kind of gets desperate here.
Yeah, yeah, and then suddenly it becomes an even fight, and you see that shift in the way it's drawn.
And then when the light actually comes back in slowly, we're back to the model city.
Hmm.
Uh,
And we see them as they are again.
and you have this great. It's not the real Gotham. It's an arts and crafts project.
Yeah, and Batman just finally acknowledging what the court really is, and really breaking through what he has always feared it to be, even from when he was a child. Seeing him break through that, it's a really rewarding moment, and I absolutely adore it.
That all it is nothing. And then just in that moment of clarity, he just realizes what the chemical composition of the fountain must be, and
Yeah.
that's how he gets out. He causes an explosion.
And after the explosion, I want to comment on this full body shot of Batman as he's lying on the ground there next to the Talon that's knocked out. What is with that costume?
It's one that's bloodied and has been decaying over the course of a week because this
Mhm.
takes place like we've already established it's been 8 days he's been down here,
Yeah.
uh, and he finds himself washing up, finding his way out, and we see what the court's going to do.
Hmm. Little wheelchair grandmother owl comes in here and decides to revive all of the Talons as we get this gorgeous last panel of all the red coffins as they're going to revive them. So we move on to issue 7, and this was the reframed scene from a previous story we had covered that I was talking about earlier.
And
We get
it's this great influence. I love Capullo's artistic take on it because it's
mhm,
the scene from the end of issue 1 of year 1
mhm,
of Batman 404.
mhm. Yes, father, I shall become a bat and all that. This time he says it out loud, which is interesting. Um,
Yeah. Um,
but you see
I
the bat.
I I prefer the way that Capullo draws it. I think to the way it is in year 1. Honestly, um,
I think they do whatever, like they do separate things.
they do
This
separate
this
things.
is.
But it fits so well in this story.
Mhm.
Like,
And then I
and
like the little twist on it of the bat being in the room with him, and then this owl comes in and kills the bat.
And it's this great idea that they have been watching from the shadows this entire time.
Mm-hmm. And so, Batman is saved after his escape from the court last issue. He is saved by a mysterious girl who has a like sort of welder's helmet on and sort of electrocutes him back into consciousness.
Yeah. She electrocutes him now. Obviously, it'll eventually be revealed that this is Harper Row, which I didn't catch the first time around.
Yeah,
So
well,
like,
I mean, this was her first appearance. No one would know who she was yet.
No, crazy welder lady, which is just this great. But there's already this connection. They recognize each other.
Yeah. Batman says, "I told you once already. Leave me alone. I meant it."
And you have this great idea of it's sort of the idea of coming out of hell, coming out of the underworld. That's what the whole labyrinth has been. It's been the descent into the underworld and coming out, and you see all of the Talons coming up, and as they revive, Bruce is reviving. He makes it back to the Batcave. Alfred has a shotgun.
Oh my god, I love this bit. I love this bit so much when Alfred sees him and lets him in, and I love the way Capullo draws Alfred's face when he sees Bruce again. Oh, it's gorgeous. And then Batman freaking out when he sees the Talon sitting there. Oh my god, I love that. And then you get that amazing panel of the Talon's goggles and seeing Bruce and Alfred holding Bruce, terrified, looking at it. Oh, I love it. It really like shows like the toll that this whole thing has taken on Bruce. We get another page of the Talons being revived. Then we go back into the Batcave.
I love the dialogue from them. It's, "For tonight we will strike down our enemy, not just strike him down, but tear him apart limb from limb and eat his bones." And here's where we have the big closer of this first volume.
We find out, so Dick comes down to visit Bruce. Bruce just wants to move past this. Bruce
is still going. He is in a new suit, but he is haggard. He hasn't even shaved.
Yeah.
He is not shaved. You see the body of the Talon unmasked and hooked up. And you have this great idea of that the electrum, a genuine metal that exists, has been pumped into this man's body and blood through this filling in his wisdom tooth.
And we see that it forms that little owl symbol we've been seeing on the knives in his tooth. I love that little detail. And Dick is just being Dick Grayson around this guy. He's sort of joking about the stiff in the room, things like that. And then Bruce drops the bombshell. He says his name is Cobb, William Cobb, and he's your great
grandfather. And that is when my jaw dropped. I'm like, okay.
Oh man, what I would give to just re-experience this issue.
It is a what, like.
So
because then we get,
before that, the lead up to it is that how the Talons would be selected is the court would go around to circus groups. They would pick their acrobats and continue to train them. That circus just so happened to be Haley's circus, the same circus that Dick Grayson is from. And Flying Grayson.
They don't actually reveal that until after. Because Dick has a genuinely justified freak out.
And
Bruce is cool.
And like the last thing that Bruce says isn't even something that would really get under Dick's skin. He's just saying, "Oh yeah, that's part of it. Yes, whatever." And then Dick goes on this rant, leading up to if you think he's like what is it? And I'll tell you what, Bruce, if you think learning my ancestors, some guy I never even knew was a criminal, if you think that's going to faze me, then frankly, you don't know me at. And you get this panel of Bruce just punching Dick in the face.
And here's the thing. Dick's entire rant is justified. Like, It is because Bruce.
Yeah. Honestly,
The
yeah.
reason Bruce has been stuck on his own is because he has been pushing people away. If he had let even Dick stay close, it would
Yeah.
have been. He would probably not have gone through that hell.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but you have, and what you see is in that motion, a tooth falls out.
Yeah.
You were
And it's just
supposed to be one too, Dick.
which, oh my God, it hurts. It hurts, and it's so
It
good,
hurts.
and it
I
hurts.
really hope some of the tie-ins, like the Nightwing book tie-in, also explores this a little too.
I'll tell you this: Nightwing got two tie-in issues. Um, well, when they did Night of the Owls, and the Talon that he fought was William Cobb brought back.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yep.
because you have this every decade. Halley Circus presented a crop of child athletes to the court, and the members chose one in secret to be trained as that era's Talon. You were meant to be the most recent one, but when your parents died and you took me in, I,
The first Nightwing New 52 arc is actually him facing the guy that they tried to take after him and they found him unsuitable.
it's it's fascinating, this entire reveal, because it never,
So
like, it
so
doesn't, in the hands of a lesser writer, they would have Bruce kind of know about the court's plans already, and that's why they took Dick Grayson in. But no, it's because of Bruce Wayne's random act of kindness happening to be there that night
yeah.
and taking in Dick Grayson. Because in most versions of the story that I've experienced, Bruce is in the audience,
Yeah. Oh
right?
yeah, that's just how it goes. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and he's like, well, oh no. He sees this as like, right. His immediate concern is this kid needs a home.
Yeah.
Um,
And then we cut back to
and
the
but
court.
we get Dick's last line. But they're not Gotham City, Bruce, and neither are you.
Back on that idea of who owns Gotham, who is Gotham, what is Gotham? They bring us back around again to that first issue. Gotham is. I love that. I absolutely love that. And can you believe this is almost our longest episode yet, and we only just finished Volume 1? Holy
I
fuck.
can. This is going to be a long one because this is like this. I will say, Joey, this may be, of all the comics we've read, I may agree with you. This might be my favorite of the bunch.
Now, to my understanding, you didn't like City of Owls as much as Court.
I I didn't like some of City of Owls as much as Court. Um, Mainly because City wraps up the big storyline, and then the issues are important, but they're not presented as well. And I also think ending it with the annual left kind of an
Yeah,
taste in
it
my
was weird.
mouth.
It was weird. I looked at the version that you got because you got the version with the new logo, right?
Yes.
So I got that on Comixology.
So the
Annual.
digital version puts it
Yeah,
in the right
yeah.
place.
The digital version put the annual in the right spot between issues 9 and 10.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
really
Well,
yeah, yeah.
I think importantly, we should moving right along.
So Talons have been unleashed on Gotham City. Luckily, issue 8 should be pretty easy to cover because it's not that much happens despite it
Yes.
being the length of a regular issue.
Issue 8, it's this great calm before the storm.
It is,
Uh,
yeah. Even right at the start, like they're already counting the Night of the Owls. It's 7:01 p.m. on Night of the Owls, and Night of the Owls was, of course, the name of the tie-in arc that they did. There was tie-ins for Batgirl, Nightwing, Red Hood and the Outlaws, Batman and Robin, Batwing. What else? Birds of Prey even had a tie-in. All Star Western had a tie-in. There,
and these aren't these all collected in a thing called Night
yeah,
of the
yeah.
Owls?
There's a collection called Night of the Owls. It puts them all in the order that of the time. They all give them like timestamps, like where they all take place within the night. So yes, but you know, as I said before, like this is all you really need. The only ones that would really, I think, enhance your experience of reading this would probably be the two Nightwing tie-ins.
I'd like
Uh,
to eventually read the tie-ins just
We can do this
cover it eventually, because I think that would be beneficial, especially for a story like this. But probably not until we get a little bit more of these other characters. Like, but yeah.
So
we're back in the idea of Gotham. You have Bruce standing, the beautiful shading of Bruce standing over his model city of Gotham.
Bruce
and
is
some
just
great discussions with Alfred. This is the best Alfred Pennyworth has been really portrayed in anything we've covered so far, I think.
Nice. I agree.
Like, because you see so much care in that man, in what he does.
Like honestly, like Scott Snyder, he does all the Bat family members and like extended Bat family, like Alfred and Gordon. He does them all like perfectly. I really just wish that he loved Selina Kyle as much as I do. Then it would be perfect. But yeah, like Alfred, I think is brilliant here. We already talked about how great Gordon is throughout this, and then they have a couple conversations, and then we hear a thump. Bruce looks up and knows that they're already here. The Talons begin their invasion. So Bruce runs to the windows. He's ready to take on the Talons as Bruce in his robe, bandaged up. He is ready to go.
He's ready to go. Alfred, I think Alfred's running to the Batcave.
Goes down to the Batcave, but
and you have, as soon as they break in, it's Bruce Wayne, the Court of Owls. Yeah, I got it the first time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. I love it. Like, just we've moved past the idea of superstition about the court and the Talons and Bruce's belief in the fear they represent, and he is just ready to take them on as the Gotham City rogues that they are.
And it's a different Talon. Like, it is a different Talon.
Mm-hmm. And then we find out that there are more Talons because Bruce Wayne is the primary target here. Bruce Wayne is Batman. He already escaped the labyrinth, which we can assume that nobody has ever done before.
Clearly. And you have the terrifying image of the Talon coming down the stairs into the Batcave. And Alfred not being helpless, but Alfred being scared.
Yeah. Because realistically, Alfred can't do anything against these guys. But the effort's there. So, so Bruce, I love these couple pages of Bruce fighting off the Talons. I love the bit where he goes up on top of the roof, and is just surrounded by them.
Is surrounded, and then he pulls a Santa Claus
and slides down the chimney.
Slides down the chimney,
which takes him to the Batcave.
Yes, which I love. And it's this Talon's like, seems you have a secret, Bruce, don't you? And again, you have the giant penny falling on the Talon.
I love it. The giant penny served a purpose, and Alfred was the one that did it, no less.
Because Alfred Pennyworth, low strength score, but high intelligence.
Exactly. And with the great line, "You're lucky, Penny, sir."
Yes. He's the butler to the end, which I love that characterization.
Yep.
And you have this terrifying image of what the Talon looks like under the mask, because it looks like a dead person walking.
Oh yeah.
Like that bleached skin, you can see the veins.
Yeah. Terrifying. So Alfred then escapes into a safe room. Bruce decides that he's gonna have to take on these guys somehow, and activates this. Okay, what did you think of the giant mech suit? Because I love it. I love it myself.
It is the perfect level of camp.
It is, yeah.
It is camp incarnate. Get the hell out of my house.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I love it. Get the hell out of my house. And then we get this little like backup story at the back of issue 8, which is really just the setup for Night of the Owls. As Bruce is fighting the Talons outside in the mech suit, Alfred sees that.
So we have it's a different artist doing this art, right?
Like, yeah, this is not Greg Capullo. No.
I like this style, especially because it's like a small backup.
Yeah.
But like it's clearly just the shift. I love that you get to see like all these people just getting gunned down and gunned down.
Alfred has gotten this list of people that the Talons are after. They're after like major political figures within Gotham, people that aren't in on the Court of Owls, basically. And they're sending their talons after these people. I love the 2-page spread where we see them all getting killed over Alfred's monologue with that Talon face at the bottom.
Yeah, it is so good. And then you have an important thing from Bruce that kind of shows that he realizes what he's done so far was wrong. Put the call out to the family now.
And another great 2-page spread here. Alfred sending out his message. This message is actually repeated in every single tie-in issue, at least at the start of them. With the explaining what's going on, like they've been sent the list of names of people they need to save, leading up to the "Good luck to you, God help us all." I love it. Oh, it's such a great arc for the tie-in issues. We're not doing the tie-in issues, but knowing that they're there and
it's just great. This is the family.
Yeah. Yep.
The Court of Owls may have their talons, but Batman has his family.
Yep.
And I know most of these characters.
Yeah, I'm curious. Who do you think the bottom right people are?
I'm guessing you said the bird. I'm guessing that might be the Birds of Prey.
Those are the Birds of Prey. Yeah. Do you know who any of the individual characters are?
I want to say the blonde could be Stephanie Brown.
No. Stephanie Brown didn't become part of the New 52 for a while.
Okay, I think the one on the right is that design looks familiar for some reason.
It was a character in Suicide Squad, the first one.
Yeah, I can't remember her name because I haven't actually seen that movie all the way through.
Okay, Katana. Katana.
That's who I'm thinking.
The one in the middle is Starling, and then the one on the left is Black Canary, who I'm assuming you know.
Yes, I did watch enough of Arrow.
Yeah, so that's
that. But yeah, it's a great setup, and it's also a great clearly we are going this issue. The rest of this volume is going to focus just on Bruce and Dick, obviously.
Yeah, but knowing that the family is out there taking care of the rest of this, I think is important to have there.
It's an important setup.
Mm-hmm. So we kick off issue 9. Again, Bruce is still fighting the Talons. We're still taking care of them.
It opens with this great monologue of the history of the Wayne family.
Yeah. There's the about the bats in the cave, right?
Yeah, a massive infestation of bats in the cave system beneath the land. And according to him, to get rid of the bats, they'd have to introduce a predator into the cave, so the Wayne brothers did. They carted in all sorts of birds, from peregrine falcons to kestrels, and unleashed them in different sections of the cave. The most effective killers of bats, though, were the tiger owls. My ancestors let owls loose in the cave. And within a year, all the bats were gone.
It's going to sound pretentious of me to say, but how smart is this book?
This is very, very smart. And I'd even argue you could probably come in at most any point during these 12 issues and still pick up what's going on.
Yeah. I would say minus issue 11. Issue 11 you definitely need. Before,
mostly, but you have this great plan of let's freeze them out,
because of course the cold is going to reduce them to the temperature that they were at, of course, before they were revived, and they'll be dead again, and it'll freeze them again. We use the amazing artifacts of the Batcave to fight off the Talons. The dinosaur stomps on a couple of them.
The dinosaur, I love it, and the Talons are thinking they're winning. And I love just the dinosaur as a guard dog is such a good idea.
And then we get this great sort of parallel of that opening monologue about the owls killing the bats in the cave. It says, my ancestors, they used owls to kill the bats. Owls everywhere, but I forgot the thing I forgot is as soon as the owls left. The bats
came back, and we have the bats being used. I love seeing that. I loved seeing that in year 1. Yeah. That being used here just brought a smile to my face. It's yes, it's clever. It's a clever understanding of predator and prey dynamics because, like,
Mhm.
the bats are the prey. Bats haven't gone extinct because of owls.
Mhm.
No, they learn how to survive.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's it is this great parallel for literally like who Batman is and who
and you get this entire like you have the bats swarming. You flip the page, and it is black for
yeah.
the
That
left side of the page.
that's there's a reason for that. I don't know if you know this, but for trade collections, so when single issues of comics are published, they have like ads every couple pages. There's like just like a full page ad. It takes up something else. It's what makes up a lot of the page count in single issues. Those blank pages that you'll see are usually there because there's a 2-page spread coming up that they need both pages for, and they need to leave the
Oh,
page blank. Yeah, so if you go ahead a couple pages, you have that 2-page spread of the Batmobile at the top.
see, I thought that might just be a
Yeah, no,
artistic choice.
that's why. So when you come across those blank pages, it's because there's going to be a 2-page spread coming up, and the trade can't fit that in
Can't
without
fit that in.
throwing in ads like the single issues had. So that's
Yeah,
why.
but you still have it dropping, and you have yeah, it's like you use the coolant to freeze the talons. And you have Bruce going out, and you see the bat bits of the Bat family. You see Damien. Um,
Mhm.
you see Barbara. I think that's
Mhm. That,
Barbara.
yeah, that's a cool part of actually the Batgirl tie-in is the court puts up an owl symbol in the sky to blot out the bat signal.
And it's a great example of psychological warfare from the Court of Owls. Like
Yeah, yeah.
they are being this stuff, and they're going. He's going to Arkham Asylum first, and then I'll go after March.
So you see those timestamps there. In between this page is where the bulk of Night of the Owls takes place. You see 8:36 p.m. going straight to 11:02 p.m. So yeah, so you have that. That's like where most of the tie-in issues happen, minus a couple that happen post Lincoln March death, which spoilers happens now. Lincoln March death, quote unquote, that is. So we don't see Lincoln actually dying. He is already stabbed before this.
He is
Um,
stabbed and he is dying.
you get this great little fake out when Batman first enters, and Lincoln says, "You, Bruce Wayne," uh, which,
And
which
Bruce thinks, wait, does he know?
which I love.
Does
I love Capullo's art there on the next page where Batman's like, "Fucking what?"
what? What? How? Because it's a
uh,
very much like, wait, how would I miss this if he knew?
Yeah, and Lincoln says for Bruce Wayne, I have a message for Bruce Wayne. He's shot the Talon in the corner, um, and his message for Bruce is he was like a note, and uh, and he believes that Bruce can help. Of course, obviously, I think Lincoln at this point obviously knows that Bruce is Batman because if he's part of the court, then he's got to know. So it's interesting for Lincoln to continue to play this game with him.
Yeah, you have this great idea of him going to burn their home to the ground.
Mhm.
And you have it's this great idea of March possibly doing his own investigation, trying to figure out the owls. And then you have, Bruce Wayne fighting back, where we get the cover that gives its cover to the actual volume, which I love.
I do.
Uh,
Before we get into issue 10, do we want to talk about the annual?
let's do a quick rundown of the annual.
Let's do the annual quick because I need to
Spoiler alert: the annual's not. I
it's
don't. I don't
yeah.
like the annual. I like mainly
I'm not really a fan
it's
of it.
okay. Um, it's basically a let's establish Mister Freeze for the New 52. Now, now here part of the problem is that the Mister Freeze backstory that is the best and the only good one is Heart of Ice. Like it's the animated series one. It's the one that pretty much every version of Freeze afterwards in media has taken from. Even Batman and Robin.
I was just about to bring that up.
Even Batman and Robin got Mr. Freeze's motivations correct.
Yeah.
That is a campy, terrible film with Arnold Schwarzenegger in the role.
Yeah, but they still understood what made Mr. Freeze's backstory in Heart of Ice work.
This just paints him as a madman.
Yeah. So my big issue with this, I don't think we're gonna go too in depth with the annual, but the big thing is that they changed Frieza's backstory so that Nora is just a person that Victor became obsessed with in his researches,
which could be an interesting motivation for a villain going an insane Batman villain.
Yeah, but Victor Fries is not insane. He's not just another Batman villain who loses his mind because a girl rejects him or something. No.
Well, there's also the implication that his mother, like, that he killed his mother, possibly.
Yeah, that he's been like insane since he was little, and like I don't like painting Victor in that light because he's not like every other, not to say every other Batman villain is insane, but like he's not like most Batman villains who have that psychological trauma and have something inherently wrong with them. This guy had his life entirely fucked up by Wayne Enterprises, typically,
but not Bruce Wayne himself. And that's something that this comic, this annual does, is that it makes it be because of Wayne. There are some good things. I do really like the art style as well.
It's very good art. Yeah, I agree. Who? I think is
Jason Fabok.
Jason Fabok. Yeah. Okay. I usually like his stuff.
It's evocative. It's cool. I love Dick and Damian in it. I love the Penguin. This is my first real introduction to the Penguin, and he's fun.
Yeah, he's really fun. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, there are things to like in here, but the absolute disrespect to Mr. Freeze as a character just pains me so much.
It is bad.
Yeah.
I love Damian with the hood.
Yeah. Most iterations use the hood, and I really like the look.
And honestly, it doesn't really feel like it ties in at all. Like, because my edition was
okay. Well, it does, because you have the idea that the court used Freeze's research to help provide the Talons.
Yeah, that's where they got it. But like, I skipped over this because it was at the back of the book, so I didn't read it in order, obviously.
Yeah, that was how I read it the first time too, because I got
you don't miss anything.
Yeah, not really. I will say, if you were reading all the tie-in issues, Mr. Freeze also does make an appearance in the Red Hood and the Outlaws tie-in, so there's a bit more context there, but this is about it, and this is the most you're going to get, and it's not really worth your time, unfortunately.
It's the weakest thing. It's probably the weakest thing we've read on this podcast, honestly.
Yeah,
so far.
Yeah, it is.
It's not bad.
It isn't. It really isn't. I'm sure we'll read more. I'm sure we'll read more James Tynion. Actually, it's a bit of a shame. He just ended his run on the current Batman series with the end of Fear State. James Tynion. He's a very good writer, and I'm sure we will cover some more of his stuff later. But this is just not a good issue.
But to Batman's going after the court, the first person we see him go after is the lady who released all the Talons.
Mm-hmm.
That's clearly who that's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like
same hairstyle, same clothing, everything. Yeah, it's her. But also, I love that she remains nameless.
She, we have a surname, Powers.
Mm.
We get a surname, and so I read that as possibly her surname, but the nameless idea is really important because that's kind of the point of the court, is that they don't have this identity. The owl masks are these white blank faces, which is so good, and the image of Batman, looking in the shadows again like a monster, but a very human monster,
saying "going down," and then her hand giving that like same like shriveled up feeling, that like the way that Bruce was seeing them when he was still in the labyrinth that's how her hand looks there, because when you see her hand in other shots in this issue, it doesn't look like that, and I love that page.
Yeah, and she's insistent that she has the upper hand. which
as the court has believed this entire night.
yeah, and this entire night, and you have again the tech of he's tracking down these people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he's finding all these people, and he's going there. He goes back to the house that he was trapped in for a week.
Mm-hmm.
This great thing, and you have this build up to him going up to the empty room where there was dust,
And to see the entire court, or at least the court in this room, have killed themselves. And my God, it's such a striking image.
And we never get an explanation for why, really. Like,
mm-hmm.
They just saw themselves losing.
Yeah, some contingency plan at the very least, even if just like a contingency plan where like even if they did lose, which I don't even think they really predicted, but even if they did lose, nobody could trace them still. Batman could take off all their masks and identify them, but at the end of the day, he hasn't learned anything from them.
He doesn't know what he doesn't know what their plans were,
and it ruins Bruce's entire great investigation, this entire comic up to this point.
And that's perhaps why I got a little foggy, at least on my first read through. Of like, that's probably because going through it like together with the two of us like this, it's giving me more of an appreciation for what's done.
As to like why Bruce was never really going to win this in the end. The court is untouchable in more ways than just you can't physically find them. Even when you do physically find them, what are you going to get from them?
And immediately you have Alfred there to bring that fatherly comfort back, basically back to Bruce.
Mm-hmm. And as Bruce just doesn't quite know what to do with himself here either.
And then something clicks.
And he decides to go out once more. And goes to the morgue. Looks where a body should be. And finds a note that says, Follow me down the
rabbit hole. And he does. He goes to a home for children, and
because those two bullets he was holding there earlier, like those were the bullets that Lincoln shot the Talon with, I would assume.
Yes, because this is where we get the reveal. This is a good question of, so tell me, Batman, who am I?
And oh God, I love that panel. I fucking love that panel where we see Lincoln's face all dead like the rest of the Talons.
All dead like a Talon, yeah. And you have this great where Bruce doesn't have the answer. He gives this whole monologue of like, and it's revealed you poisoned them to make it look like they killed themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And you faked your own death. And you have this idea of like, I'm very hard to kill. You're telling me what I did, not who I am. So who, Bruce? Who? I know you have a theory. And it's the first time you also get the confirmation he knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Yeah. And the reason that Lincoln gave Bruce the exact location of the court is because he had already killed them. He had already ruined Bruce's entire adventure.
And you at this point, I just kind of want to walk through my sort of thought process as I was reading these next couple of pages. It was like, because I was hanging on every word at this point. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Why? How does he know? And that you're basically building to the pin, this heart-shaped pin. There's the lie, but where's the truth? You mentioned a pin she wore, a misshapen heart pin made of clay, and you saw the picture of my mother wearing that pin, and you used it in your No, the truth in the lie, Bruce. That pin was only given to the mothers of children who lived here at Willowwood. So who am I, Bruce? Um, and you're sick. You're nothing. You're your brother, Bruce. I'm Thomas Wayne Jr., your brother
So
that never was from the other side of the mirror.
so I absolutely need to know what you thought of this moment.
My brain was like, okay, this man's clearly insane
Mm.
because it did not fit.
But they play around with that idea.
Yeah.
They really do. And honestly, I think it makes enough sense. Like there are certain things in the last issue, issue 11 that we'll go over next, that disprove that, that Lincoln is actually his brother. But I think it would make sense, honestly. And if nothing else, if he is just a madman, which he is, but if he is just a madman, if he is just a madman, then you could see how he got himself to that conclusion. It makes sense in his mind, and it could make sense to a reader.
It could. And you have that amazing final page of him dressed as an owl.
What do you think of the Ultra Talon costume?
I really like it and the way it's drawn.
I think
and
some people
framed.
I think some people find it ridiculous, but I always really liked it myself.
It's a little ridiculous, but you're dealing with a madman.
Mm-hmm.
This madman who has single-handedly taken down
who I think we could also put together that the court fed lies to,
yeah,
and sort of shaped.
Yeah, the court made this, whoever this person really was, truly believe that he was Thomas Wayne Jr.
Mm-hmm. And so we get this fight. Lincoln in issue. We're not going into issue 11. We get this fight. Lincoln continues to explain his rationale, and it's a really great fight. I love Lincoln constantly like flying through the air, carrying Batman along with him, slamming into buildings, leading up to like my favorite moment in this, where Bruce is like hanging on like the turbine of a plane. I love that.
He has a jetpack. This dude has a jetpack.
Has a damn jetpack.
And you have this great villain pontificating about Rome and historical brothers who killed one who killed one of the other and got greedy.
Mm-hmm.
And March never really stops to try to be like maybe you could accept me, because I'm sure Bruce Wayne, if it was true, would accept him as family.
Yeah. But also consider, like, if this were a possibility, consider that Bruce may not have even accepted him. Bruce has already out and out rejected the court as an idea. Bruce can be pigheaded, and he can be just like completely ignorant to certain obvious things right in front of him.
That's true. And you have just the final fight on this plane, and you have him, Bruce, only surviving because of the high-tech stuff, which I love.
Mm-hmm. And even when Bruce lets himself fall then from that point and crashes into a window, he thinks he's finally done, but Lincoln comes in and picks him right back up. One of my favorite panels here is that panel like on the like the top left of that one page, where he like picks him up and Bruce is just dangling there.
And he looks and March looks like a like this grotesque skeleton.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Get this great final speech from March. Bruce doesn't even say anything in this moment.
This idea of being became to reclaim the city from them in a different way. You'll be the beak of the great owl. And you like, that's not what I wanted, Bruce. I wanted the city in earnest. It was my time. Now I can never have it. I know that, but if I can't be this city's future, I'll be its secret past.
Leading up to the brilliant line, "Me, I am Gotham's history." Before Bruce finally gets away, pokes at his damn eyes, and the building explodes behind him. Lincoln is, of course, caught in that. The building comes crumbling down on him, and Bruce is left in a wheelchair and a cast. And my God, Bruce needs a fucking break.
Bruce needs a break. You also have the interesting idea that no bodies were found in the wreckage at all.
Mm-hmm.
Which is that crazy thing. Like, could he have survived? Maybe. The court probably survived.
Yeah. Oh, there are definitely court members like outside of the ones that were killed at that table.
And you have this great final conversation between Bruce and Dick to close us out.
Mm-hmm. Which starts off kind of antagonistic, but also in that Dick Grayson way where he's like, "Yeah, I want to punch you in the face back for like you punching me." He's like, "But I suppose that could wait. You're already in enough pain." So Bruce explains how Lincoln realistically could not really be his brother, and you see him explain it, but also it's framed in the same way that Bruce explained that the court couldn't exist.
Yeah. Now, I don't think he is his brother. I don't think that's the intention.
No. But the idea
But I
is
think
there.
It's meant to imply that.
But I think also it would be a lot more open-ended if not for the backup story in this issue.
Yeah, with
the Jarvis Penny. Yeah.
Yes,
and we'll cover that in a second.
I love that, but
yeah, but it's like this. It could still be open-ended.
It's also the great idea that there was another Wayne child.
Yeah, and that for one night, Bruce did have a brother. There was a Thomas Wayne Jr.,
which I think is so fascinating.
Yeah, like it's not a drastic change to the Batman continuity, but in a way, it is.
It's enough that it easily could have always happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
always could have been there. And then you have sort of the final analysis on what Gotham is. Gotham is all of us. And you have Dick coming in. It's a little bit Batman. Come on. It's this, come on.
I love it. And Bruce says, in the end, I have to say I'm grateful to the Court of Owls for this lesson. But even so, if they reemerge, when they reemerge, I'll be watching always. And I love that last page of Bruce's eye looking at the Gotham skyline with a bat signal up, which... Is he ignoring that bat signal there?
It's a good question. It could be a matter if they don't realize Batman is... Wait, no, they would realize. Is he ignoring the bat signal?
At the very least, he can't call him to Gordon and say like, "Hey, Jim, I got pretty roughed up by that Court of Owls. I can't make it in today. Sorry,
also,
could you cover my shift?"
Dick is there. Dick is right there. Dick Grayson.
Is Damian there? I guess Damian's there or something. But
Damian's probably like, I knew you'd survive. I refuse to show any sort of happiness that you're back. And then secretly going off to be Robin.
Yeah. All right, backup story time. Jarvis Pennyworth. What'd you make of this one?
I loved this. It's another one that shows that horror influence.
Yeah. This is where if you were only reading the Batman title, then this would be like the first time you had seen a Talon outside of like your traditional Talon design, and I love the look of this one.
Yeah, because it's that sort of Edwardian style.
Mm-hmm.
But you're paying basically where this is Alfred's father.
Yeah, father. Yep.
Who is in the service of Thomas and Martha Wayne and baby Bruce. Happy baby Bruce.
Look at happy baby Bruce. Look at Bruce being happy for once. Look at that picture of him drawing with some crayons. Look at him go.
Look at him playing with Alfred. Look as his parents watch on.
I love it.
And you have this great it's this great confirmation that is so necessary that Thomas and Martha Wayne would not have cowed to the Court of Owls.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
They are two very important people, and eventually you see the Talon that leads to Jarvis's death.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite things in this is the court calling Jarvis and threatening him with that owl flying outside of his window and then dying as it hits the window pane. I love that.
Yeah, it's such a good moment.
We get some inner monologue references to the fact that there was indeed another Wayne child for at least a night. I forget. I can't find the one line. The closer we got to that damned intersection on the corner of Lincoln and March.
Which is a great little.
Yeah, which is really like if you believed if for some reason you still believed at this point that Lincoln could have been Bruce's brother, that's the end of that right there.
That's the end. Is that no? This entire point, you know, and it's the whole. They knew they were the ones that killed Thomas Wayne Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And I love.
Sorry, go ahead.
You have this idea that Alfred may never actually know because it gets burnt down.
Yeah, the note that Jarvis burns away is only known to us readers, and it burns with Jarvis as the Talon kills him. I love this scene afterward where Alfred's paying respects to his father, and he acknowledges the fact that maybe his father was killed by the court, but is that important? It wasn't the whole point of this just to be finally done with it, and it's just not important to him anymore, not now.
And then we have our final issue.
Oh, wait, before we get into that, I love this one line at the end here. These couple lines, I should say, where Bruce says, I'll find Lincoln, Alfred. I will find the truth. Alfred says, you will find the facts. The truth is that even if you and Lincoln share the same blood, you still lost your brother in a car accident when you were just a boy. And I know you'll do what you must when the time arises, but for now, the specters of these long lost kin deserve to rest undisturbed as an owl flies above them.
Implying clearly that's meant to be the end.
Yeah, definitely.
But then you have Ghost in the Machine, which is a very important issue told outside of Bruce's perspective.
Yeah.
Essentially the events of the Court of Owls and Night of the Owls from teenager Harper Row.
Scott Snyder says gay rights. We love it. Love it.
I love. So this was 2011. Marriage Equality
this would have been published in 2012, but yeah.
So Marriage Equality probably hadn't happened yet. I'm trying to remember the dates of that.
I think you're right.
Yeah, it was like that year. I think
this was early 2012. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure I have that date. Yeah, yeah, that was a little later.
And honestly, just gay characters in comics weren't all that much of a regular thing even then. It's a shame, but yeah, even then, like it was still not that much. It wasn't like a topic that you don't see gay characters in comics even from 2011, 2012 like you do today.
Yeah, we've really hit a renaissance, but here you have Harper Row, who is living poor, and let's hear her story. We have her and her brother living together.
They live in this really beaten up, torn down part of Gotham, where
and their tiny apartment, it's drawn in such a way to make it feel like home, though. This feels like a home. You immediately have this great sibling relationship.
I love Cullen. Cullen's a great character.
Cullen basically just tells his sister, Harper's the realist who's like, they're only inviting me to this Wayne Gala because they want to tear down our house. They're going to tear down our house, which is an interesting aspect to acknowledge about Bruce Wayne's plan to revitalize Gotham.
Yeah, There's gonna be some. Yeah, you still need to tear things down to make way for new things. It's not.
And what do you do with the people in between?
Which is interesting of Snyder to point out as a writer. I think also it is worth noting, credit where credit's due. I think Tynion did help on writing this one as well.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Which I just checked. It's both of them, which is good. And
Cullen... but it pulls away from that idyllic look that we see of Bruce Wayne's plan for Gotham in the first issue, where we see the other side of that. Like, what is it actually going to do? We're acknowledging both sides of that. It's not a perfect plan, but it's what Bruce wants to do, and he does want to help Gotham, but there do need to be sacrifices made, and Harper is our perspective character for
It's a
that.
good question of, are these sacrifices just? It's also really telling for Cullen that, he has this silly ulterior motive to try to trick any of the Waynes or the Bat family to falling in love with him.
Yeah, yeah. We also get this little hint here where Cullen has like this bandage on his arm because he was cut for some reason. We'll find out more about that later.
And
Um,
he's very much like, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine.
yeah.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Um,
I'm fine.
I
And then we
love
see
I love
Harper
this
at the gala.
I love the scene here at the gala where she's like stuffing the baked goods into her bag, and Alfred comes up behind her and says, "You're making a serious error, young lady, if you leave
And
the dessert
your
table without
brain
tasting the
automatically,
brownies."
it's the amazing, like, because there's a page turn there. It's this amazing. Oh no, is she gonna? Are they gonna get mad that she's stealing food? Um, Alfred Pennyworth, the best of
I love
them.
it. I love it.
It's
What are
just
you?
like, no.
What are you? A caterer? Simply a butler with dreams of culinary grandeur, I'm afraid. I
And
love
he's
it.
very much, and he understands like why you'd want to go home.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So Harper leaves, goes home to find Cullen not in a good state.
she admits to Alfred that she rewired the landlady's apartment and was given this ticket instead of the $300 that she owed her.
Mhm.
Um,
Um, yeah, it's such an interesting like perspective character because you don't see this side of characters in comics often, and for a Batman light issue no less, like this is the main character of the issue, and I love the direction they take with her. And her brother, of course, as we're getting back to him now. He was beaten up, he's bleeding, we can assume for obvious reasons,
Homophobic reasons.
given the next page, which I fucking adore. It's like one of my favorite moments in this.
And there's this great, it's this great of, don't fix it. It's genuinely scared, like, don't fix it. It'll only make things worse, which is kind of
Yeah,
true. And Harper being sort of because she's kind of a punk, and I love that. It's that punk aesthetic.
hmm
Fixing it isn't what I had in mind, and you see both of them with a slur in the back of their heads,
yeah,
like
and also
wearing it as a
really smart way to do it, given that I don't think they could actually print the word in the comic. The way that their like hair is covering the letters.
yeah, which is very fair.
hmm
And they're both playing it up, and that is sort of how they fix it.
hmm
And
But
even
but
then
of
you
course,
see,
it doesn't fix everything because on the way home, then what was it? I'm assuming I think it's a couple nights later, I believe.
yeah, it's
Um,
supposed to be a couple nights later.
uh, Cullen and Harper are stopped by presumably the same kids that beat up Cullen the last time, and they continue to beat on them. And
And Harper tases a bitch.
I love it. We love it. We love it. Batman steps in, takes these guys the
Yeah,
fuck out. Batman says gay rights. We love it.
yes, which is very, very great. And it's this amazing. Harper is immediately inspired by Batman.
Yeah, and I love it. Like Cullen says, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Harper, who just keeps staring up at Batman as he leaves, um, and uh, and then
Does the conspiracy board thing.
yep, Harper dedicates her life to just finding out more about Batman, and I love it. It's a great street level view of Batman. You don't see this often, and
And
it's
she's
just
clearly
fascinating.
trying to work out who he is, where he's going to be.
She looks up like
Uh,
security cameras where like you where like the cameras like black out as he like swings by, things like that. So she like tries to like figure out like where he's heading because this is in the middle of his investigations as to like who attacked Bruce and Lincoln at Wayne Tower. So she's hunting him down here in the sewers as he continues to look for these people. I think there are a couple different artists working on this because then the art style changes next when we find him on the boat.
yeah, and you
Yeah.
you see him beating up some character called Tiger Shark.
Yeah.
Who
I'm not familiar with the character, so I don't know.
um,
I don't know if he's a pre-existing character.
and she saves him basically
hmm
by turning a runoff valve. And,
Yep.
you know,
And I love like the excitement she runs home to Cullen with it, saying like I did it. She like jumps on the bed, wakes him up, and she's all happy that that she saved Batman.
and he's like, "You smell awful. You were
Yeah,
in the sewers."
they have such a great relationship, and I really love exploring that. We also
And you
have
have the Batman finds her and basically tells her, "You're finished."
don't
Uh,
don't interfere again. This isn't your job. And we have this like running inner monologue with Harper where she talks about the 7 words that changed her life, and Batman happens to say 7 words. Um, oh God, where are they? Whatever you think you're doing, you're finished. But instead, it's 7 words that she says to herself. Harper Row, you're not finished, no way. And I love that. It's this ambition within a character. You see her wanting to do more, and we will definitely be exploring that in the future.
she is such a good, and that it's such a perfect close to this issue and
Yeah,
this entire arc that it you need it. We've
I
been
think
going for over
I think the fact
2
that
hours.
I think the fact that in the collection the annual comes after this is a fucking shame.
Yeah,
But whatever,
like the
whatever.
annual. Yeah, but yeah,
That's the Court of Owls.
that's the
Holy
Court of
shit, that
Owls.
was a
Yeah.
long episode.
Um, yeah, so as you can tell, for longer story arcs like this, we may be taking longer, especially when we go in depth. I'm very glad we gave this the time that it needed because it really does need time.
Yeah, and I think we did properly cover it, which I'm very happy about. So tell us, of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, tell us in the comments what you think of the Court of Owls and City of Owls and all that. What do you think of the arc?
If you are watching this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast provider, please leave us a rating and review. That will actually help us with some of the podcast algorithms to help us grow
Absolutely.
and reach new listeners.
Yeah. And of course, to those who have been listening to us so far, thank you so much. It means a lot to know that people are supporting the podcast, listening to us, watching us, whatever. Yeah, just it always means a lot. And of course, also, if you're strictly listening to the podcast, please consider subscribing to Blood Donut Studios because there will be other non-podcast related things on this channel. So even if you're not going to listen to the podcast on the channel, just giving it a subscription, just showing your support, just lets us know that you're there and that you're supporting what we do, and that means a lot, of course.
It's also a good way if you want to converse with us. We both do check the comments, and we'll
Absolutely.
love starting conversations with fellow nerds.
Indeed. So, all right, Jacob, are you ready to find out what episode 5 is?
I am curious.
So before we had done this, you guessed whatever happened to the Cape Crusader, which is incorrect. Yes. But the reason you had guessed that is because I said there was a connection between our last Batman story and what's going to be our first Superman story, which we're starting with next year. Yeah. So, coming out on, what would it be, December 20th, is episode 5 of Fresh Face Comics, where we'll be covering, drumroll, The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller.
Okay, hello.
Yes.
This is going to be interesting.
This is going to be very interesting. So if you're watching on YouTube, I will leave the link to an Amazon link to The Dark Knight Returns in the description, the version that we're reading, basically just the 4 issues of The Dark Knight Returns. I'm very excited to read it. Very excited to see what you think of it, given our last Frank Miller.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so this should be fun. This should be very, very fun. So once again, thank you all so much for listening. It absolutely means so much. Let us know what you think of the new audio quality. I'm so happy that that we had like matching mics and that our audio quality should be pretty well synced up. We're doing a lot for this podcast. We're going all out, and I hope that shows in the finished products. So yeah, thank you all so much for listening. I guess until next time, this has been Joey Morgan
and Jacob Licklider.
Thank you all so much for listening. I will see you all next time in the next podcast. Goodbye.
Goodbye.